poised mountains, messenger birds in sight, came up from the valley, both sides at a time, to the cold steady rain, ready to bend down, pull it up and down, lama two, trigger blast, fast ripped into the scenes, I start to run, it was the loudest thing I'd ever heard, and like silent bell, press, you know, press, lama two, 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 you know, press, lama two.
Feeling a little bit jazzy? How's that? Feeling a little bit jazzy? Look pretty out of it. Open wide, open wider, wider, closed. That's good, that's good. Yes, handle that. Stop a tune. This might hurt just a little bit. Don't bite, don't bite, don't bite. There we go. You're pretty out of it, aren't you? Just relax. How's that? Go stop that music. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Just sit back and relax. There's a tape if you want to put on the headphones.
Welcome to the dream, everybody. There's a 52-year-old man sitting in a dentist chair up here, and as he feels the drill going into his tooth, and he can feel the pain throbbing in his head, and he starts to think to himself, I gotta get out of here. So he kind of feels himself drifting off into dreamland of a sort, and he's kind of going off into a little bit of a dream. And he closes his eyes and starts feeling himself shut out the outside world a little bit, slowly. He feels himself drifting off. And as he starts to drift off, he sees himself traveling down this corridor that opens up in front of his eyes. And the name of this guy is Colonel Forbin. And Colonel Forbin is looking down this long corridor as he sits in the dentist chair, and he's feeling the throbbing, and as he kind of drifts off into fantasy land, he sees this corridor opening up in front of his eyes, and he starts to pass through it. And as he goes through it, he walks along kind of inside of his mind, and we can all kind of go with him through this corridor until he runs into this knight that's leaning up against the wall. The knight turns to him and introduces himself. He says his name is Rutherford the Brave. And the two of them start talking. And as they talk, Rutherford the Brave looks at Colonel Forbin and he tells him about this land that he's gone to. And the name of the place is called Gamehenge. And as they talk, Rutherford the Brave begins to tell him the story of Gamehenge and how all the lizard people of Gamehenge had lived there, and how Gamehenge has been taken over by this evil guy, the evil King Wilson. So as they talk, Colonel Forbin starts to talk about where he is. Through the corridor, I came upon an aging knight who leaned against the wall in gnarly armor. He was on his way to see the king. Wilson, Wilson, Wilson. He led me through the streets of Prussia, talking as he tried to crush a bug that scurried underneath his boot heel. He said there was a place where we should go. So he led me through the forest to the edge of a lagoon, by which we wandered till we reached a bubbly spring. The night grew very quiet as we stood there. He lifted up his visor and he turned to me and he began to sing. He said, I come from the land of darkness. He said, I come from the land of doom. He said, I come from the land of Gamehenge, from the land of the big baboon. But I never ever going back there, and I couldn't if I tried, 'cause I come from the land of lizards, and the lizards they have died, and the lizards they have died, and the lizards they have died, and the lizards they have. He told me that the lizards were a race of people practically extinct from doing things smart people don't do. He said he was once a lizard too. His name was Rutherford the Brave, and he was on a quest to save his people from the fate that lay before them. Their clumsy end was perilously near. The lizards would be saved, he said, if they could be enlightened by the writings of the helping friendly book. In all of Prussia, only one existed, and Wilson had declared that any person who possessed it was a crook. He said, I come from the land of darkness. He said, I come from the land of gloom. He said, I come from the land of Gamehenge, from the land of the big baboon. But I never am going back there, and I couldn't if I tried. helping friendly book it seemed, possessed the ancient secrets of eternal joy and never-ending splendor. The trick was to surrender to the flow. We walked along beneath the moon. He led us through the bush till soon we saw in far eyes a raging river. He said we can swim it if we try. And saying this, the night dove in, forgetting that his suit of arms would surely weigh him down. And so he sunk. And as his body disappeared before me, I bowed my head in silence and remembered all the thoughts that he had thought. He said, I come from the land of darkness. Said, I come from the land of doom. Said, I come from the land of Gamehenge, from the land of the big baboon. But I never am going back there, and I couldn't if I tried. Cause I come from the land of lizards, and the lizards they have Okay, here's what we have so far. Colonel Foreman, the guy in the dentist chair, is sitting there and he's getting his teeth drilled and feeling the throbbing pain and everything, and he disappears down this corridor. And as we heard in the last song, he meets up with this guy, Rutherford the Brave, who's leaning against the wall. And as they stand there, they start to talk. And as they talk, Rutherford the Brave starts to tell Colonel Foreman about the land that he lives in here. And this is this place called Gamehenge. And he tells him about the lizard people. And he tells him how this whole area used to be a beautiful, peaceful, tranquil, green, luscious forest village for thousands of years, where all of these people lived in peace and tranquility with the help of this book that they called the Helping Friendly Book. Now, the Helping Friendly Book was a gift to them from Iculus, who lived up on top of the mountain. The great knowledgeable Iculus. And for years they had lived in peace and tranquility until along came this guy named Wilson, who took the book from them and enslaved all the people. And at this point in time, he was basically the tyrant who was enslaving all these people and keeping them captive. So what Rutherford explains to Colonel Foreman is that there's this underground movement going, and they're trying to overflow. They're trying to overflow. Trying to overthrow Wilson, and Rutherford is part of this whole thing. Now, as they talk, they come upon this river, and Rutherford, he's not too smart, so he decides he's going to dive into the water with his suit of arms on, and he dives into the water and sinks to the bottom. At this point, Colonel Foreman looks across the other side of the river, and he looks up and he sees this woman riding on this large, hairy beast, and standing next to her is this strange creature, strange kind of hairy 6.5-foot tall creature called the Unit Monster. The Unit Monster dives into the water and takes Rutherford the Brave out from the bottom, pulls him up above his head and saves him, lays him on the ground. So now you've got the four of these guys standing there, and as they're sitting there, Colonel Foreman looks up at this woman, and he realizes as he looks up at her that he's falling madly in love with her. Now her name is Tila, and as he looks up at her, he starts to sing this little song to her.
The sky is burning in this lonely land, and I kneel by the river and I feel the sand and the wind from beyond the mountains, the wind from beyond the mountains. And she comes to me in this lonely land and looks down from the multi-beast on which she rides like the wind from beyond the mountains, the wind from beyond the mountains. As I look into her eyes, my frozen heart begins to thaw and burn till layer after layer melts away into a pool, a sky blue mirror of her eyes. And my soul is made of marble, but in her gaze I crumble into dust and drift lullaby the breezes whisper.
So Colonel Foreman now is looking up at Tila, and he realizes that he's madly in love with her. And what you've got right now is you've got Colonel Foreman, you've got Tila up on the multi-beast there, you've got her little sidekick, the unit monster, and you've got Rutherford the Brave, who's still recovering from his ill-fated dive into the river. And what happens is all four of them climb up onto this thing here, this big hairy animal, and they start riding through the woods. And as they ride through the woods, Tila looks back and starts to tell Colonel Foreman about this whole revolution that's going on. Now, they ride deeper and deeper into the woods, and as they get deeper into the woods, it starts to get darker and darker and sort of scarier and scarier, and they find themselves really getting far into the heart of this dark and deep forest. So it keeps getting darker and darker, and they go deeper and deeper into the forest. And as they ride, Tila tells Colonel Foreman about this revolution, as I was saying, and she says that the revolution has been going on for years, but they're really getting close now, and they think that they're going to be able to overthrow the evil King Wilson and hopefully turn the whole area there back into peaceful, beautiful, non-tyrant area. So here they go, into the forest, and as they ride into the forest, they come upon this clearing. The woods they get thicker and thicker, and then finally they open up into this round clearing, and standing in the middle of this clearing is this guy, Aaron Wolf. And Aaron Wolf is standing there with his fist raised up in anger as they lean forward, and as they start to come forward towards him, he sings this song about the evil King Wilson.
Wilson, king of pressure, I lay this hate on you. Wilson, duke of lizards,
So there he is in the middle of this clearing here now. Aaron Wolf singing this song about Wilson, and the four travelers get off the back of this huge multi-beast and they get down and they start walking around. As they walk around, they see that this whole camp of revolutionaries is hanging out there and they're getting ready for something big. Now, as they're standing there, a messenger comes in and he gives them the word that they've been dealt sort of a horrible blow. And what the message is that the money for this whole revolution has been coming from this guy, Mr. Palmer, who is the evil King Wilson's accountant. And Mr. Palmer, despite the fact that he was working for Wilson himself, is actually part of the revolutionaries and has been moving funds from Wilson's account out to the revolutionaries so that they could have money to run this whole thing. The problem is that Wilson found out about this. And as we speak right now, in the main square of right next to the castle there's going to be this execution. And Mr. Palmer has been caught and he's going to be killed. So here's Mr. Palmer standing up on this scaffolding, and next to him is this little mechanized robot hangman called the AC/DC bag. And the AC/DC bag is about to pull the handle and drop Mr. Palmer through the thing. And Wilson is standing there next to him overseeing this whole thing. And he sings his like. $1,000 question. Just like Roger, he's a crazy little kid. I've got the time if you've got the inclination. So cheer up, Palmer, you'll soon be dead. The noose is hanging, at least you won't die wondering. Sit up and take notice, tell it like it is. If I were near you, I wouldn't be far from you. I've got a feeling you know what you did. AC/DC bag. AC/DC bag. AC/DC bag. DC bag. AC/DC bag. AC/DC bag. AC/DC bag. DC bag. Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put them in a field and let them fight it out. I'm running so fast, my feet don't touch the ground. I'm a stranger here, I'm going down. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get this show on the road. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. I'm breathing hard, open the door. AC/DC bag. AC/DC That's the end of him. Mr. Palmer goes down the hole, and it's all over. Now, meanwhile, back at the camp, things are looking bad because without Mr. Palmer, there's no money and they can't run the revolution. So everybody's getting really a little bit worried here. And this is when Colonel Forbin steps in. He decides that he's going to do something that nobody's ever done before. And he decides he's going to climb up the mountain in the distance and try to find the spirit of the great and knowledgeable Iculus, who lives up on top of the mountain. And by doing this, he hopes that Iculus can help them because it's the only way that he sees left. So he starts to go through the woods and head towards the mountain and head towards the mountain where he's going to start this climb. Now, this is a huge mountain. Nobody's ever been to the top of it. And as far as these people know, this whole Iculus thing might just be legend because nobody's ever actually come in contact with him. But Colonel Forbin decides he's going to risk his life to climb up this mountain. So here he goes now through the woods. So there he goes now, Colonel Foreman, climbing up the mountain, trying to find the great knowledge of Iculus. And as he climbs up the mountain, he feels the whole mountain start to vibrate and shake like there's an earthquake going on as he gets closer and closer to the top, climbing up higher than anybody's ever gone before. And as it shakes, big, huge boulders start to fall down and tumble down around him. And as he looks up, he sees that where the boulders are falling out, it's leaving sort of indentations in the mountain that make the whole top of the mountain look like a face. So one boulder falls out and leaves an eye socket in another until the whole face starts to take the shape of an old man with a big white beard. And the face itself looks down at Colonel Foreman and says, you know, Colonel Foreman, I know why you're coming up here. I'm going to try to help you. And he looks up, and the mountain has actually become the spirit of this guy, Iculus. So Iculus calls his friend, the famous mockingbird, who comes flying down out of the sky. And he tells the famous mockingbird to fly to the castle of the evil King Wilson, steal the Helping Friendly book, and bring it back to the people of Gamehenge. He sends it with a warning, though, that he says that having a book that tells you everything, that all the knowledge inherent in the universe, is not necessarily a good thing, and you better be careful. But that comes in later. So right now, the famous mockingbird is flying down out of the sky into Wilson's castle to steal the Helping Friendly book. And you can hear him coming down now, the famous mockingbird. So the famous Mockingbird comes down and he gets the book from the castle and he brings it back to this clearing here where all the revolutionaries are. Now when he lays the book down on the ground, a horrible thing starts to happen, and that's the fact that Aaron Wolf, the head of the revolutionaries, when he sees the book on the ground, he starts to feel this incredible feeling coming over him. And he picks up the book and he realizes that, sure, they've got the book back and everything, but now that he's got the book, he's the one that could have the power. So he takes the book, and in a fit of rage, he grabs the famous Mockingbird and he straps him to this pole with glue and rubber bands. And he takes the book and he grabs a couple of his cronies and he says, if we can go into town and find this one guy who's strong enough to kill King Wilson, then I'll be the one with the power. So he's got the book. He realizes that he can take over. So what they do is they go into town and they find this guy who's basically the only guy in town who's strong enough to execute King Wilson, and this guy's name is the Sloth.